Hi, I'm Katelin. I'm 25 years old and I was diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, whenever I was 17 years old. When I decided to get tested at 17, my oldest sister, who's 2 years older than me, was diagnosed around the same age. So at that time she was 20 when I finally got diagnosed, but she was 17 when she was diagnosed. And we struggle with weight gain and hair growth. And those were our two first symptoms that we realized. I was very active. I was a cheerleader in high school. So around the time that I was diagnosed, I was competitively cheerleading and working out 4 hours a day, 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening, and still gained weight, was very, very heavy. At the time, 17-year-old diet was probably not the best, so that could contribute, but the weight gain was definitely there, even though it probably shouldn't have been as high. So from the time I was a sophomore in high school, I was around 140 pounds, and then whenever I was a junior in high school, I had gotten up to about 200. I remember whenever I hit 200 on the scale, and I just cried. I was devastated. I had severe depression, severe problems with regulating emotion, but I also have other factors that contribute into that, not just PCOS. I'm going to talk about my PCOS story and where I'm at right now in January of 2019. So I'm going to go back to my story. I have my little cheat sheet here. So my symptoms that I have with PCOS, I hold weight very much in my middle section, my tummy and my back. My cat's coming to say hello. And I struggle with losing weight. In 2012, whenever I was a senior in high school, I was up to about 250 pounds. And then that was in 2012. So in 2015, I had gastric sleeve weight loss surgery where this is Gandalf, I lost about 100 pounds. I got down to about 167 by June of 2016, whenever I was about to be married. So I've had the same partner for 11 years. He's my husband now. We've been married in June. It'll be 3 years, but we've been together for 11 years on the 11th of January. So about 3 weeks ago was our 11-year anniversary. My symptoms are my weight on my belly and my mid area. I have chin hair. It's very bad. Some days it's worse than others. If it gets cold, it will present more because the hair growth is being stimulated, but it's mostly from here to here. So chin, like right here in this triangle area down to my neck. I will get sideburns here, which mostly I take a little shaver and shave those off, but I do have to shave my face. If not every single day, once every other day. It depends on when I shaved the last time. So in the evening time is when I would shave, and then the next day I'd be okay until the following evening. But I definitely can tell when I need to shave. I'll get stubble, it'll start to present, and no makeup can cover it up. My hair is very thin, so I have my hair up in a bun today. Most of the time my hair is very stringy, and it thins up here at the front. It got better after I had weight loss surgery and lost a bunch of weight, but I do have thinning here, and it is very thin. It is about a handful of hair. It's not much at all, but my family already has pretty thin hair on my father's side, so I follow his hair pattern. I have insulin resistance, so I do take metformin for that, but I have been glucose tested, and the glucose resistance test is what I took, and it's like I think it was 6 hours. I feel like it was 6. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But my glucose test, you drink the gross stuff, and you sit there and they test your blood every hour or so. And I came back that my insulin would rise, or would be blocked for a while and rise and spike and then fall. My insulin had nowhere to go. It was just not, I would have very high insulin for a while. I have been hypoglycemic, I believe it's what it's called, but I do struggle whenever I eat carbohydrates. My insulin does rise and fall, and I get very tired if I eat too much carb-heavy foods, and I become very sick to my stomach where I'm nauseous and dizzy. I've had irregular periods since I started my cycle whenever I was 14. I was a late bloomer. I was 14 and I had my first cycle in the 7th grade. and I didn't have another one until I was a sophomore in high school. After I was a sophomore in high school, I would have 1, 2, or 3 periods a year, maybe. I've always been irregular. I can never count on when my cycles are going to happen, until recently, whenever I started tracking them and taking medication, getting them more regular. So like I said, I was 17 when I was diagnosed with an internal sonogram, where they take the wand and you have to have a full bladder. When I tell you that was painful, it was painful. It was horrible. I was 17. I was like, I barely started having sex and I'm having this wand inserted into my vagina, and I'm like, what? This is painful. So they did the internal sonogram, and while they were doing the sonogram, they're like, look at your ovaries. I want you to see your ovaries. They look like chocolate chip cookies. You see all these bumps here and all these circles and all these little dots on your ovaries. Those are cysts. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool, okay. And not cool, but like, okay, I can understand a little bit more. 17, wasn't really worried about having kids at that time. Really didn't matter if I had a normal cycle. It just wasn't on my things to worry about at 17, 18, or 19. And they started me on metformin around the time of my diagnosis, and my diagnosis was PCOS, and it's PCOS with insulin resistance, so I do have insulin problems, and I still continue to have insulin problems. So 250 milligrams of metformin, which if you think about fertility, metformin, it is way lower. That dosage is way lower than women who have PCOS that are trying to conceive, which their dosage will go anywhere from 500 to 1,500 milligrams a day. Maybe sometimes multiple times a day. It depends on what their reproductive endocrinologist states. So all of this testing came through an endocrinologist, not reproductive endocrinologist, just an endocrinologist at the time. And they also tested my thyroid at the time because it was enlarged, but there was just a cyst on it that was malignant. There was nothing wrong with it. It didn't control any of my hormones. It was just there. And since I lost weight, it has subsided. I'm not sure. Maybe my hormones regulated and it just kind of retracted. But so let's track to now with my PCOS story. I have been trying to have a baby since April of 2018. I had an IUD right after I got married. That was for me the best choice because I am very bad about taking, at the time, I was very bad about taking medication. I just didn't want to think about it. I have a tilted uterus, so my cervix is tilted, so I did the NuvaRing for a while. The NuvaRing just gave me problems. I got yeast infections. I was really uncomfortable. It would fall out. I hated it. It was horrible. I did it for 2 months, and it was too much for me. So I had an IUD right after I got married, so 2016, so I had that up until 2018, and then I had it removed in April, 21st of April of 2018, and my doctor put me on 500 milligrams of metformin, so up to my metformin, hopefully getting my cycles more regular. I still did not get pregnant at the time. I was just saying, let's see if this, metformin will help me move forward. And then I did a metabolic panel, which tests all my blood for my metabolic things that help with hormones and all of that. And then I did a full reproductive panel testing my LH, testing my testosterone, testing androgens, all of that. My testosterone is very, very high, or it was whenever I tested then. And so April, May, and June, I just wasn't seeing any difference with because I was trying to lose weight at the time, didn't see any weight loss or any changes, so I asked my doctor to up my metformin in July, and in July I was up to 750 milligrams is where I'm at now, and I went through some depression, which that's a different video altogether about my mental health issues that I have, but I just stopped taking my medication, stopped caring, didn't want to have a baby, I was just done with the idea. I hated failure. I hated feeling like a failure, like I couldn't do anything right. And so from there, and from July, maybe August, until about November, I wasn't serious about it. I just didn't care. I was just like, if I have a baby, I have a baby. And so we were actively trying. We would have sex during my windows. I would have regular cycles. Sometimes they would be irregular depending on how I was living my life. If I was being healthy, if I was exercising, if I was eating right, my cycles would come naturally. If I took my metformin a week before, my cycle would come the next week. And then it was just a vicious cycle with me doing what I'm supposed to. My cat's playing with my blinds. Hold on. It was a vicious cycle of me dealing with the responsibility of taking care of my body so that I could conceive a child. And so in November, I sat down and I prayed, and I'm a very religious person. I believe that everything is in God's will and God's timing, and I believe that God finally spoke into my heart and saying, okay, you're finally ready to be responsible about your health. It is no longer about trying to have a baby. It's you being healthy and being able to lose the 30 pounds of weight, because I had lost so much weight with my weight loss surgery and then gained it back after I got married. Marriage, stress, and other factors lent into me gaining weight again. And so in November, I found out that I was vitamin D deficient. I had low iron. I had, my testosterone was about a 56 whenever you're supposed to be in the 50 range or below. I'll have to go look back on my blood tests so I can see that. But then I started taking them more religiously and really praying that I keep the momentum just for myself. So I started keto diet at the very 1st of January, which, I mean, it's only like January 24th today, but I still started keto. Cut down my carbs to about 20 grams of carbs a day, which for me, I'm a carbaholic. I love carbs, love carbs. And so I cut it down. I started taking all of my medications, my vitamin D, vitamin B6, iron, CoQ10, metformin, fish oil, exercising more often. I'm trying to run a 5K, so I'm trying to run about a mile, half a mile every week, which is nothing, but I'm not a runner. I've never been a runner. Even when I cheered full-time, competitively, I was never a runner. I was just the brute strength because I had a lot of testosterone. But I finally ovulated. So my cycle I had a cycle at the end of December, and that was like December 27th through to the 31st, I believe, right before New Year's. And then I waited. My cycle was very healthy for the first time. My cramping was there. I've always had really bad menstrual cramps, debilitating, stay in bed for the first 2 days of your period, menstrual cramps, and it wasn't that bad this time. I had been taking medication. I just felt different. I felt better. And then I started keto in January. So after my cycle, I started keto, and then I started approaching my fertile window, and I noticed that my body was starting to change. My cervical mucus was changing. My mood was changing. My skin started getting glowy. I felt energized and felt well. And I realized, oh my gosh, am I about to ovulate? So I bought ovulation strips a long time ago and finally busted them out and started setting alarms and started testing my BBT, my basal body temperature, and testing my cervical mucus every day and checking my ovulation and getting all these apps and checking the test strips on the apps, and it happened. I had a peak positive ovulation test where the test line was darker than the control line. Never has that happened, ever has it happened. It was a beautiful day, and I had a lot of intimate time with my husband during that week. We did it a lot more because we've been together for 11 years. We once or twice a week is great. It was like 5 or 7. Like, we would do it sometimes twice a day. Like, it was great, wonderful week. And I finally ovulated, and so now I have about a week until I test, but I'm having weird symptoms. I'm not going to read too much into them, but I feel like maybe it's pointing to the right direction. If this is a pregnancy, wonderful. If it's not a pregnancy, wonderful. I'm learning about my body, and I'm learning that there is a trend and a pattern to taking care of PCOS and conquering PCOS and being healthy and well so that you can be a healthy, well pregnant person as well. And yes, I do deal with anxiety and I deal with depression. And after that, I guess progesterone high and then it dipped. And I believe it's estrogen. I don't know my hormones very well, but I'm gonna get to know them. I feel more at peace with what's coming and what is going to happen. Right now I'm anxious. Oh my gosh, I just want to test. I tested last night, negatives. I just feel weird. I'm just having some symptoms. There's another video on that. But I'm just gonna keep on trying to document what I'm feeling, and I'm gonna post this for, I don't know who, but for me, for others who are like me. So keep the love, keep the hope, keep the faith. Guys, keep moving. There's babies that are going to be born, and there are babies that need to be loved, and there are you that you need to be loved, and you need to be loved and love yourself. And I'll be back hopefully in a few days, and I'll just keep documenting what I'm feeling, and we'll just keep this train moving. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.